right. With that, we come to a panel that's hopefully going to be like equally exciting and that follows the thread of like what we've had earlier in the day, advancing AI for everyone. But without further ado, I want to like ask the moderator to come on stage. Dan Orosh is both like super helpful to like all the support that Google has given us at this event. So I want to just personally thank you for that. But he's the marketing lead for Google and YouTube in Romania, and lead for, now I'm probably butchering it, strategy and operations across Central Eastern Europe. And he is also personally an angel investor. So not only can he help you with great products, he also is giving you money personally, I assume. So thank you so much, Dan, for supporting us, and thank you for moderating and hosting that next panel. Thank you so much again.
Thanks a lot. Let me introduce the guest first. So first of all, I'd like to invite my colleague Diana, who is a researcher at Google DeepMind. Applause for Diana, please. Then Ioan Jacob, who is a serial entrepreneur, founder of FlowXAI. Ioan. And Ovidiu Cimpean, who is a state secretary for Minister of Investments and European Funds. Ovidiu. So the idea is that we want to talk about how we can actually advance AI and bring AI from different perspectives. So we have the research part, education, we have startups and private sector banking, and then we have the public sector. So we hope it's going to be an interactive session. So let me start first, maybe with Ioan, because you announced like the biggest round in enterprise software in the last 18 months globally with FlowXAI, 35 million Series A. And there are a lot of startups in the audience, and just wanted to ask you about the process and how did you raise that amount in this period?
Well, first of all, thanks for the invite here. I guess it's very much a function of the size of the problem that we solve and novelty of the solution that we're bringing. You know, if you look at the world today, most of the innovation is happening in consumer. Right? If you want to get a nice technology, you go to Google. As a guy, you know, you go to Google, you go to Apple. If you want to build proper technology, you go as a developer, you go to Google, you go to Apple, right? But enterprise, the enterprise sector has been overlooked somehow, and I think the fact that we're the first platform that's bringing AI into enterprises and into enterprise development. It's just, you know, it's a huge problem to solve. I mean, if you think about it, enterprises are running our lives, right? The world banking, the world agriculture, healthcare, energy. All of that energy, right? All of that, it's run on enterprise systems. And that's a huge problem to solve and has been overlooked for a very, very long time, right? So I think that's one of the reasons for which our investors were incredibly excited about what we're building, and that resulted in you know, the round.
And how much do you think it mattered, the AI part?
Well, AI is a tool ultimately, right? It's a tool that enables results on a completely different scale, and this is, I think, the results matter. It's not necessarily that AI matters, but the highly differentiated results that we're driving matter. I mean, imagine being able to deliver or to develop in, you know, a couple of weeks things that used to take years, literally years. We have one of our clients that was telling us that what they delivered with us, what they built using the FlowXAI technology in a couple of weeks, in literally just 2 weeks, took them previously a year and a half with a team that was probably 5 times larger, and they failed. It didn't even make it to the market. So I think that kind of highly, incredibly differentiated results are made possible also by AI.
So we're talking a lot about AI, but who's actually building this AI? And I want to move now to Diana a bit, because you've been working at DeepMind for the last 6 years, right? But you're also professor at or teacher. You're also teaching at UCL. The new generation of students want to learn about AI. So how do you see this like developing AI talent, and what should, for example, students or young professionals in the room focus on if they want to enter this field?
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's really good to be here, first of all, because this is really outside my area of expertise. So this is, as a researcher, we are hoping that someone will take those insights and actually make them into tangible products and use this technology. So it's very, very inspiring to see so many people doing that. To your question, I guess there's two, so I teach mostly graduate students, and for graduate students there's two paths of impacting in AI. One is, I guess, my traditional path of going into research and developing more new algorithms, or the other one is to have enough technological understanding of these algorithms and the potential that they can to apply them to now a product or build something, at least at the prototyping level, to then inspire maybe a founder or a co-founder to make that leap further into a product. So I think if we look at the last 4 years, most of the students that took our course are now co-founders or have joined startups that early on startups that their model is based on machine learning technologies or AI technologies in general. So I think that's normally the path that our students follow.
Cool. And have you seen like a huge increase in demand for your course or for this type of courses in the last, especially like I would say 2 years or 3 years?
Yeah, so I like to, like personal anecdote, when I started in AI almost 13 years ago, I was looking for a program and I didn't want to go outside Europe. And UCL was actually offering the only machine learning program in Europe. And now any computer science department has a graduate program or even undergrad programs that offer courses like that. So I am actually teaching to the same master that I took 13 years ago. What I do right now is reinforcement learning. And this was the first time a reinforcement learning course was taught at UCL. And there were 2 people taking this course, one of them being a professor. I was the only person who took it for credit. And now, in the last 5 years, we have to turn away students just because we don't have classrooms that are big enough to accommodate all the people that want to take it.
Well, that's quite impressive.
Yeah, that's 10 years
of innovation, basically.
Yeah.
And so, coming to the public sector, right? Like, what can the government and the state offer to the, let's say, young professionals or students in Romania to acquire more of these skills? And how are you guys thinking about it? And this is not just about the students, but also about SMBs, startups, and what's the plan for digitization?
Thank you for the questions. So I will start with the strategy at the European level. So maybe you all know that we are now in a digital decade at the European level. 20% for the mechanism of resilience and recovery mechanism should found digitalization. And at the European level, for example, we are investing now, the aim is to invest 1 billion euros for AI.
It's at EU level.
At the EU level, but the aim is that together with the member states, but also with the private sector, to achieve 20 billion euros per year at the end of this digital decade by 2030. So this will allow Europe to have the same investment that we are seeing now in Northern Europe or in Asia. So Europe is in the third position now in terms of investment in AI. And at the national level, of course, we are looking at the strategy that Europe have, and we are having the same objectives. And now, for the first time in the European money programs, we are having a dedicated program on research and digitalization with 2.2 billion euros. We are having in this program a national hub for artificial intelligence, which is financed with more than 50 million euros. But
and when it's going to be available in Romania?
Now we are working on launching the call for proposals. This will be for the hub for the artificial intelligence program. Is a dedicated project. So there will be a cluster of universities from all over Romania. But we are having a lot of call for projects. You can look at the calendar. We launch a calendar on the website of the Ministry of Investment and European Projects with more than 500 call for projects.
What's like the source of truth for all these projects? Like where should people go to see all these projects?
So in this calendar you can see call for projects and guidelines from PNRR, for example, but also from this program that I mentioned for research and digitalization. There will be also money from the regional program. It is 11.5 billion euros, the regional program, and a third of this money will go on investments on smart technologies, new technologies for SMEs and for the public sector. And now we are already with the guidelines in an ongoing projects with more than 350 million euros for digitalization for SMEs. And we are preparing to launch in July 150 million euros from PNRR for advanced technologies, included AI. So there will be roughly more than 9 billion euros in Romania in the next coming years to spend on digitalization, but also on advanced technologies.
So talking about digitization for companies, and going back to Jon and what you guys are doing with FlowX, walk us through a bit of the problems you're solving for the banks and how you're helping them basically make their products better, or why are they choosing your platform?
So again, FlowX AI is generally a technology platform that's actually fairly agnostic of industry. We have chosen to work with banks first because I think that's where the biggest urgency to modernize applications is, and that's been our commercial focus for the past several years, and it's probably going to continue to be in the next couple of years as well. In terms of problems, I would say that the biggest challenge that banks have today is being stuck with this incredibly slow and hard to work fragmented landscape of applications, right? And I think everybody has many projects of migrating thousands of applications to the cloud and trying to rebuild the bank on modern technology. But a lot of the IT is stuck on just legacy technology, right? And imagine every change, every small change for a bank is just a massive project, right? Because of this old technology. A lot of banks are running on COBOL, right? Which is technology from basically the 60s. So every small change for them represents a huge effort and a massive investment. And about 80% of the IT budget, 60 to 80% of the IT budget goes towards just extending old legacy core. And what we're doing with FlowX AI is we're giving banks a way out of that. We're giving them a way to develop new mission-critical products very, very fast. We're giving them a way to cut IT and operational costs by probably an order of magnitude. Like typically the typical use case in just mid-sized banks is anywhere between 20 to 60 million a year per use case in terms of impact. And we're giving them a very interesting way to start actually using AI on an enterprise-wide scale. Because if you look at how, again, we're going back to the consumer conversation, right? Most of the AI tools today in large organizations are being used at kind of individual level or team level at best. We're giving very large organizations the ability to use AI across the entire organization. And they're able to drive incredibly powerful business insights using our platform and running on our platform.
And so basically the message is that enterprise is sexy as well, not just consumers. And there's a lot of potential there, and there's a big gap for digitization in the enterprise, maybe much bigger than what we see in the consumer space.
I would say enterprise is not only sexy, but it's incredibly important for us, right? And I was mentioning before that basically most of our lives are running on enterprise software, but maybe one interesting thing that we have to consider, again, speaking of COBOL and legacy technologies, is that the number of people that know how to operate those technologies is decreasing rapidly. And the new generations, they're not interested in COBOL. We're having advanced discussions with US governmental agencies, for example. And one of their challenges is that no matter how high the scholarships they're offering, the internships programs they're offering, they just cannot get people, young people, to come in and code in COBOL. Nobody's interested in doing that. So there's actually a massive, let's say, danger that we face because, we risk ending up like in Idiocracy if, well, that's an old movie, so the reference might fall flat. But we might end up in a situation where we don't know how to operate and how to develop kind of the foundation of our society, the technological foundation of our society.
So we might have some legacy systems in the public sector as well, right? A bit maybe. And my question to you is basically how you guys also thinking about not just like supporting SMBs to digitize, but also how you're thinking about it in the public sector. I know you've done a lot of work in Cluj, actually, in making Cluj like a modern city. How do you see this sort of like applied at a bigger level?
So here the aim is to have 100% of all the public services to be available online and digital. So it will be a lot of focus on achieving this goal, and of course there are a lot of national programs like the cloud program, or but there are a lot of applications that are apps that are very good at the local level and that can be replicated in a lot of other cities. And here I think that it's very important to have the involvement also of the NGOs, of the private sector, universities. And I can give the example of the public policy of the municipality of Cluj-Napoca. They are financing 2.5 million euros every year for NGOs projects. And I can see that there is an important need to have joint efforts from, I don't know, clusters of IT clusters. In this region, we are the only region that have 2 digital innovation hubs that are financed in order to promote the new technologies, the AI for children, for high school students, or for university students. And I think that also the local authorities, they can do their part in order to finance somehow this type of project, in order to make the AI tools available or more inclusive for everyone, because in the stats we see that Romania is lagging behind in terms of how many people are using this AI
and
tools.
even in basic digital skills, not even AI, yeah. And talking about, again, going back to the talent question and like how you're sort of like developing your teams to use these tools. I have a specific question to you because I take advantage of the fact that you're in the research area. how are you guys sort of like measured in terms of like productivity or expected results, right? Because when you think about regular software development, it's quite straightforward. Like you need to develop this app, you need to finalize this by, I don't know, in 3 weeks. When you think about research and like building AI models, how does this conversation change?
Very interesting question. I think I can't speak of all the ecosystem, but I think I was very lucky at DeepMind that I think we hire very good people, and basically in the first meeting, I was, what's actually the job description kind of thing, like what, what's my perf gonna be like and stuff like that, and it's like, we hired you because you're a very intelligent person and we believe in your ideas. So
you figure it out.
Do your own research agenda. What's the question that you want to answer? What's the question that kept you at night? What's the question that, in your PhD you didn't have time to figure out? And pitch to me that this is a unique place for you to discover that. And I'm gonna help you build a team around that and answer that question. So I think that's the, and I think in the early days, I think success is measured maybe by, maybe publication, maybe impact, but that's a very, it's very hard to quantify kind of thing. The things that, are hyped out right now, in a couple of years might have not have had the impact. And things that win, 10, after 10 years, awards of like, this has impacted the industry, are things that were very overlooked by the research community. So I think in research is very hard because the impact is down the line. You hope you will see the impact of these things in 10, 20 years. I think with AI right now we're seeing a bit, the timeline has shifted quite a bit. And in February, actually, I was at a workshop in Barbados, and we were just having a discussion, and there were some marine biologists they had a marine robot kind of thing, and they approached us to say that they're using our algorithm in the robot that is collecting samples from them. And, we've never had any interaction with them, but it was just out of nowhere, like they wanted to introduce themselves. So it's like, thank you for, developing this, although we didn't have that application in mind. So it was a quite nice thing to see, and I'm hoping these kind of algorithms actually live in a lot of systems out there, because most of our work is publicly available, everybody can use them, and hopefully build on top of them.
And what are some of the things that excite you personally, like these days? Because a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now in sort of like in practice, like large language models and all these things, came from research that has been done in the last like 10 years, right? It's not something that came overnight. And what are some of the things that you think from a research perspective are quite interesting now? And not just Google, not just at Google DeepMind, but in general in AI field that you think might have like really interesting potential in the next 10 years?
It's a very difficult question because I think maybe the last 18 months was even a surprise for us of how much we can push the existing technology. And I think it is for us also a paradigm shift. I think we saw one at the beginning of like 2012 when deep learning started picking up with the first classification kind of task. Then we had another breakthrough kind of in deep RL with DQN in 2014, and then 16 was AlphaGo kind of a moment, and then a lot of other systems that were very specialized for one task, but superhuman. So we knew we could do that. What we didn't know we can do, and it's the G in AGI, is the generalized part. And I think a lot of us were hypothesizing that this will take at least another 10 years or so. So the kind of generalization that we see now with these large models, especially multimodal models right now, it is beyond what we thought the theory suggested we can get. So I think that timeline has shifted quite a bit. And I think right now we are at the point where we're trying to understand exactly what happened there and the merging properties of this kind of generalization. And I think once we know what the limit of this is, that will inform the next step. Because right now we're in a very good position where we already had very good specialized systems that were doing superhuman. And we have now generalized systems that can do kind of human level. So I think bringing those together might just be enough.
But talking about this, like how can we augment sort of like our skills? And I'm looking at you, and because I want to ask you, how has AI sort of like impacted the way you guys are developing software and your engineers? Like I assume there's going to be a time where we'll have a company doing an IPO with a team of, I don't know, 100 engineers maybe, that will do the work of like 10,000 engineers, right? Or, I mean, I'm exaggerating now, but you get my point. How do you see this?
I don't think you're exaggerating at all. And quite honestly, you know, our entire team is using many AI and machine learning tools in their day-to-day job. And actually, one of the things that this enabled us to take on is this very unique approach that we have, where we're saying that a very, very small number of absolutely exceptional people with the proper tools will be able to build more, faster, better than a very large number of good people. So our focus on, you know, we still are a very, very small team, yet our platform is powering right now, you know, banks in multiple countries across probably 12 or 14 countries right now. And even our investors were just shocked by how much product we have been able to develop with such a small team. So no, I don't think you're exaggerating, and I think that's where we're going, right? Where AI is becoming essentially this exoskeleton for people, for developers, for you know, for high-level professionals.
And do you think you can cultivate this in the company, or it's mostly about, as Diana said, like recruiting the best people who already sort of have this mindset and they want to learn and develop, or like how do you see this?
Well, it's definitely something that you need to protect in a company, and I think it goes back to this idea that problems are not solved with money. They're not solved with volumes of people. They're solved with proper good thinking, right? And being diligent and being thoughtful and thorough about problems. And again, you know, we've seen many companies that have been spending literally billions of dollars, right, trying to build similar tools, and they're nowhere near where we are. You know, granted, we've been working on this for probably over a decade right now, and everybody's jumping now on the AI bandwagon, and AI is becoming like the probably most overused word in every single conversation I've heard in the past 6 months. But you know, we just have a technology and a team that's just so far ahead, it's impossible to catch up with. But back to your question, I think that mindset needs protecting, and it needs you know, being sheltered from starting to become lazy in thinking about the organization and starting to believe that you can address problems with more volume. Right? Software essentially is a thing about leverage. It's by definition, you know, something that enables you to get a higher leverage. And a lot of companies have been trying to build that completely the wrong way by just throwing volumes, scores of people at the problem, and it doesn't work.
Talking about leverage, how can we bring much more leverage in the public sector, like this mindset of, I know, using less resources in order to create better things for the citizens in the end? Like, how do you see this in the sense of like training the people who are working in the public sector?
I think that in the public sector we will have also the same problem that we see in the private sector. So we will see a lot of public services that will have to be 100% digitalized or made by AI tools, and to have to reorient the public servants to other purposes. And I think that, for example, with the European money, we are putting a lot of focus on sustainability. So we are looking at making all the processes more efficient, more sustainable. But the main objective is to increase the quality of life, because we are doing all the public projects for the good of the people, for the citizens, and we need to have this in mind for every project that we build.
But talking about EU money, because there's also this discussion when you're a startup, right? You want to take money from the VCs, but there are also some grants available, EU money, but then it's complicated and there are a lot of paperwork and so forth. And like, how do you see this sort of in the next cycle? Like, and I know that there's also public money going into VCs who then direct it into startups. So what are some alternatives for startups when talking about public money, grants and so forth?
So, as I mentioned in the first intervention, there will be a lot of call for projects for SMEs.
Like direct grants for the
direct grants, and I mentioned, for example, with 90% of non-reimbursable money, the program that by 30th of June will you can submit a project for digitalization, so you could have 50,000 euros, for example, for digitalizing your enterprise. But also there will be money, for example, for Just Transition program, up to 5 million euros to invest in your idea in order to bring added value in the local economy. So please follow the calendar on the website, and we are trying also to simplify the process of European absorption of money and to make guidelines shorter. We achieved to launch in the public debate some guidelines for the SMEs on only 19 pages, so it will be very easy to read and to not leave all the work on the consultants' teams, because if you are reading, maybe you will have better ideas for your enterprise.
Can you build a large language model that we can talk to answer questions from all this long documentation? I think that would be that might be useful. So thanks a lot on that. Now, just in closing, I would like to ask some like advice that you might have for the people in the audiences, and I want to be very specific to your like core competency, let's say. So Jan, you're a startup founder, you just raised 35 million Series A. What would be your sort of like number one or 2, 3 pieces of advice that you'd have for startups here who are looking to raise their seed round or their Series A? More general, not necessarily for enterprise.
Well, I don't think I'm really well equipped to give advice to anyone.
Maybe your experience. What do you think it helped?
You know, a lot of the things that I say are actually stupid. But one thing that really worked well for us is this idea of thinking how to operate from a higher vantage point. How do you operate with higher leverage, right? How do you not operate with more volume, needing more volume, and how do you actually increase the lever in order to get more results with less resources? And I think that for startups, that's just an absolute critical type of requirement, especially at the beginning. And I think maintaining that going forward, that again needs a lot of protecting, but for us, that's something that's been kind of a primary way of operating and thinking about the startup that we're building.
Cool. Diana, there are a lot of people in the room who are either technical or non-technical who want to learn more about AI, how they can apply it in their business, or maybe how they can have a career out of it, and then there are podcasts and courses and everything. Like, where should they start? Or like, how are you thinking of, like, I mean, of course, you're a researcher, but how are you thinking about staying on top of all these developments and what's actually applicable or not in all this like buzz?
Yeah, I think the one thing that you have to do, I think, wherever you're going to apply this technology is, I think the paradigm has shifted. So I think you have to continually learn. I think we're like, this is moving so fast that you can't just, do a course right now and you're done kind of thing. That old model of like, you've done school and then you're in exploitation mode, that's just doesn't work for AI. And I think, we'll catch up with other industries too, but I think it's just a long life kind of development. I think that's how you go into engaging with AI and like making a business out of AI, because it's gonna change so quickly that anything that you've learned even 6 months prior might not be the best tool to use right now. So I think that's to keep in mind as a mindset. On more the technical levels, I think fortunately a lot of the ML community has a lot of open source kind of things. Coursera, Udacity has a lot of courses. YouTube has a lot of courses, including my course at UCL is freely available on YouTube. There's versions of that from my colleagues in deep learning as well. So, check out those resources. They might not be as updated right now, but it's a good starting point to understand. The other, I think, especially for people trying to do a startup in the space, talk to an expert. Talk to someone who is in research, even if it's like, 20 minutes conversation to say like, is this technologically possible? Like, is this feasible in the space we are right now? Because I've heard at least, 5 or 6 ideas yesterday, and people were still questioning that this is possible, and I'm telling you it is possible. Most of these things are actually technologically possible. It's more like building it that is important right now. There are so many like low-hanging fruits there that we have the mature technology right now in terms of learning algorithms to make to fruition that, just do it, yeah.
Thank you. And on this topic, in the closing, for Ovidiu maybe, and I know there are foreigners here as well, when you go to Brussels or when you talk to people from EU, what's one thing that gets you excited about Romania from a technological perspective? Like, what's one thing that you mention and you think that this is going to be really great for Romania in the next few years as an opportunity?
I think that Romania has a good image in terms of geopolitical position now. We are doing the right thing on the international relations stage, but also in terms of human research, and here I refer to new technologies. We are seen as a growing force in Europe. At least we are having some important hubs in this part of Europe, like Bucharest, Cluj, Iași. And I think that we need to go further and to have a lot of trust in us. I see that there are people that are smiling, but I had some talks with some friends here before the panel, and they agreed with me that we can do maybe more important things here in Romania or in this part of Europe as unusual suspects than maybe in Germany or France. So.
And we can
we need to believe in our capacity.
Yeah, so it's also a matter of mindset, right? And believing that we can solve. And if we cannot solve it, we ask AI, and AI help us solve it. So thanks a lot, Diana, Ioan, Ovidiu. Thank you very much, and enjoy Pennsylvania.